Dragons. Few creatures are near as legendary or iconic in the realms of fantasy and mythology. I mean Dungeons and Dragons, it's in the name. These winged reptiles of ancient lineage and fearsome power are known and feared for their predatory cunning, their greed, and their might, with the oldest dragons accounted as some of the most powerful creatures in the world. Dragons are magical creatures whose innate power fuels their dreaded breath weapons and other preternatural abilities. Where a dragon lairs, it rules all other beings around them, cutting up entire regions into their own private fiefdoms, devouring all who challenge them, and demanding tribute from those who submit. But even dragons have gods. Draconic deities, even the most ancient of evil worms, must both acknowledge and pay homage to. And of all the dragon gods, none approach the dominant malevolence and imperious majesty as the queen of evil dragons herself, Tiamat. The Dragonqueen, the Dark Lady, the Undying Queen, the Avaricious, the Chromatic Dragon. She is the lawful evil goddess of evil dragons, greed, avarice, wrath, and tyranny. This dragon goddess is depicted as a nightmarish amalgamation of monstrous draconic body on 4 powerful legs and having 5 writhing necks and heads, each corresponding to one of the 5 major species of chromatic dragons: black, white, green, blue, and red. Each head is capable of operating entirely independently of each other, and each have the powers of a member of their respective race of dragonkind. Each head's color runs through the length of the neck and into the forepart of her body, and gradually blend and merge into a muddy brown on her back half. Her coloring continues to darken as it runs down her long tail, tipped with the poisonous stinger of a wyvern. Her enormous draconic wings are capable of carrying the Dragonqueen with incredible speed and maneuverability. She's a terror on the battlefield, capable of annihilating entire armies with her 5 breath weapons, her formidable spellcasting, and her fearsome claws. Though this is her dominant form, Tiamat has 2 other favored forms known by sages and her cultists. These avatars are known as the Dark Lady and the Undying Queen. The Dark Lady is a form commonly depicted as a human sorceress with long, lustrous dark hair and black robes. She has an alluring fey beauty to her, with a seductive smile and pupilless black eyes. This is a form of diplomacy, lies, and temptation. The Undying Queen is an undead manifestation of the Chromatic Dragon, a sort of multi-headed Draco Lich. It has skeletal wings and glowing points of light floating in shadowy eye sockets. Tiamat can also manifest in a fashion similar to a thunderbolt from the heavens. These strikes of divine power are equivalent to the breath weapon of an ancient dragon in power and appearance. Tiamat can also touch the world with her favor through the discovery of priceless treasure including gold, precious gems, and rare works of art. Tiamat's displeasure is usually expressed by the inexplicable disappearance of vast amounts of hoarded wealth from a warded vault or other supposedly safe locations. Avaricious, supremely vain and lawful evil, Tiamat proclaims herself the creator of evil dragonkind. She constantly seeks to extend the power and dominion of evil dragons over the land of the material plane, particularly when her subjects find themselves embroiled in territorial disputes with good dragons. She is the epitome of the avarice that dominates the hearts of all her evil draconic children, believing that the multiverse and all its treasures will one day be hers and hers alone. She ever stirs evil dragons' immense pride and wickedness. She herself is hateful, never forgetting any kind of slight, and she enjoys such wretched pastimes as torture, bickering, and fighting among her consorts, as well as destroying valuables and treasure which her avatars bring her. To Tiamat, deities of all creeds and from every pantheon are inherently tyrannical, and therefore her rivals. She considers herself the only being powerful enough to defy these gods and overthrow their despotic rule. Her followers work tirelessly toward her agenda of world domination. All true believers must follow her unquestioningly and be willing to sacrifice themselves in her service. To overthrow the gods requires power, and power is acquired through the accumulation of wealth and magic. Cultists of Tiamat are primarily occupied by the twin tasks of acquiring an ever-increasing hoard of wealth for their faith and sabotaging the faiths of other powers. They occupy most of their waking hours with an unending series of thefts, assassinations, and acts of vandalism and arson. And when Tiamat has attained enough power to assume her throne as the only goddess of the realms, her draconic children will serve as her dukes, or so they are told. Despite Tiamat being both a destructive and wrathful goddess who enjoys razing the occasional village, city, or country to the ground, she is also a maliciously intelligent and cunning goddess who only commands or inflicts such blatant destruction as a diversion for a more subtle, world-spanning plot. She is the villain who lurks in the shadows, her presence being felt but seldom seen. She and her cultists are eminently active in the world. When manifesting on the material plane, the Dragonqueen usually travels in the guise of a bewitching human or elven female, rather than one of her forms of power. Several evil dragons of various types either accompany her in disguise or lurk out of sight nearby. She and her worshippers work tirelessly to bring the world to heel under dragon rule. For many ages, sages have actually debated whether Tiamat is genuinely a deity or some other kind of deific level being. Many believe she is the archetype of evil dragonkind, a devil, demon, or the avatar of another deity. Some claim she is in actuality a mortal dragon so powerful that chromatic dragons came to revere her as their queen and creator. Whatever she is, sages all agree for certain that she is both immensely powerful and very much worshipped by evil dragons as a goddess. Though her tales of origin are conflicting, the fact is that Tiamat is a goddess, with her most likely origin commencing from the father of all dragons, both god and mortal, Io. Io is the chief deity of the Draconic pantheon. He is god of dragonkind, balance, and peace. He is seen by his people as the creator of all things. He fathered the first dragons who became the gods of the Draconic pantheon. Of his children, 2 specifically stood out above the rest. Twins, 1 male, 1 female. 1 good, 1 evil. Embodied in them were the passions and propensities of all dragons. These offspring were Bahamut and Tiamat. Io intended for the 2 wormlings to grow up together, learn from each other, and eventually mate, bringing together all the attributes of dragonkind. The children of Tiamat and Bahamut would be wonderful, perfect dragons. Instead of love and affection, immediate rivalry sprang up between the 2. Their natures were too much at odds to allow them to feel affection or even respect for one another. But both of them sought Io's favor. Bahamut strove to gain his father's good regard through exemplary behavior, trying to be the noblest creature he could be. Tiamat, on the other hand, used cunning and caprice. After several schemes failed to raise her above her brother and their father's affections, Tiamat designed a dramatic plot. The wormling goddess endeavored to sow jealousy and enmity between Bahamut and their oldest sibling, Vorel. She tricked Vorel into destroying some of Bahamut's favorite magic devices. Although Bahamut merely reacted with regret at the loss of his treasures, Tiamat informed their father that Bahamut had been enraged by the destruction. She then waited until a time when all others in the household slept the deep sleep of dragonkind. She slew Vorel, Io's first son, and her own older brother, and spattered some of her victims' blood on Bahamut. Tiamat knew that Io loved Vorel and anticipated that Bahamut would be slain or at least exiled for his apparent murder of the firstborn, but she erred. She supposed that Io would react as she would to such an incident. The creator of dragonkind, however, did not respond with the short-sighted rage of impetuousness Tiamat expected. Instead, his love for his children led him to investigate, and in his power and insight, he ascertained the truth. Grievously disappointed, he banished Tiamat from his presence. With this rejection, Tiamat's love for her father turned to hate. She then decided to bring forth creatures of her own, and became the creator of evil dragonkind. Bahamut felt driven to oppose his sister's evil, and became the creator and king of the good dragons. In this way, Io lost his 3 children, 1 to death, 1 to evil, and 1 to good. The Dark Lady unfailingly demands reverence, homage, and tribute from her subjects. All evil dragons pay homage to their queen, though few keep shrines dedicated to her in their lairs. They do not wish Tiamat's greedy eyes gazing at their treasure hoards. Instead, they dedicate vast, gloomy caverns to their deity and keep them stocked with treasure and sacrifices. Even good dragons have a healthy respect for Tiamat, though they usually avoid mentioning her or even thinking about her. Tiamat has many consorts, including great worm dragons of the white, black, green, blue, and red varieties. Temples of Tiamat are constructed in the former layers of long-dead dragons. These natural caverns are dominated by frescoes of the Dragonqueen, surrounded by her numerous consorts being worshipped by countless dragons and humanoids. All such temples are filled with vast piles of wealth sacrificed to the Dragonqueen and are rife with traps, guardian monsters, and constructs. at least one or more young adult chromatic dragon's lair is in the depths of most of the Dragonqueen's temples, guarding both her altar and her riches. Tiamat's clergy is regimented by a strict hierarchy of ranks and corresponding titles. In ascending order of rank, priests of the Dragonqueen are known as custodians of the copper chalice, defenders of the silver, wardens of the electrum mail, guardians of the gold scepter, keepers of the platinum crown, scales of the white worm, horns of the black beast, wings of the green gargantuan, talons of the blue bay torrent, and breath of the red ravager. Tiamat claims not to need allies, though most believe she has bargains with many archdevils and lawful evil deities. Her enemies are numerous, including Heronius, Moradin, and of course, her brother and eternal rival, Bahamut. The Queen of Dragons resides in Avarice, the first lair of the 9 hells of Beator, where devils and lawful evil rule the day. Tiamat's realm, known as the Dragon-spawn Pits of Azarul, or simply as Tiamat's lair, sits atop a towering mountain, with flights of dragons wheeling through the skies around it. 5 watchtowers, each carved to resemble the head and neck of a watchful dragon, curve up and out of the main structure. Because of the fortress's primary entrance on the roof, it is accessible only to flying creatures. The secondary entrance is a cave on the sheer rock wall below the fortress. One must fly or swim across the maggot pit to reach Tiamat's caves. Being on the first layer of the 9 hells, Tiamat's lair is amidst the front lines of the blood war between devils and demons. For their part, the demons avoid her fortress entirely. The hordes of the abyss have learned the hard way that Tiamat and her court prefer to be left alone. The Dragonqueen has no interest in becoming involved in the blood war. The fortress itself appears finite from the outside, but nearly infinite from within. Its upper floors resemble a sumptuously appointed royal castle, scaled to accommodate a dragon of colossal size. Beneath it are trackless miles of winding corridors and treasure caverns, and every coin in the fortress is guarded by a jealous, fiendish dragon. Tiamat's lair contains the main gate to the second of the 9 hells, Dis. To reach it, one must pass a chamber known as the Cave of Greed, which is filled with cursed treasure that compels the weak-willed to try and steal it. Tiamat has her own chamber within the complex, as do each of her 5 consorts, but it is possible to travel to Dis without disturbing her. Non-dragon worshippers of Tiamat incarnate in her realm as wriggling soul forms upon death. Those she deems especially worthy are transformed into Tiamat's own unique fiendish minions, a bizarre amalgamation of devilish and draconic features, the Abashai. After placing them through unspeakable torment, these creatures are sold to eager devilish buyers in exchange for gold and gems. Tiamat has far more Abashai than she needs, so she permanently indentures platoons of them to various archdevils in return for monetary payment. She has sold these archdevils the secrets of Abashai physiology, so that they can promote those who work for them according to their merit. Tiamat's avaricious disinterest in her devilish spawn reinforces both their servile need to please her and the arrogant bluster they display toward the rest of Hell's minions as compensation mechanism for their lowly status. Tiamat's presence in Avarice has confounded sages for years. As with devils, she is unable to leave the plane of her own will. She must be called forth, but only the mightiest rituals can draw her back into the world. The most prevalent theory holds that her confinement is related to the end of a long war between dragons and giants, that she was sequestered here by means of a mighty curse levied by a forgotten god of the giants that she slew. The curse brought an end to the war, but also drew the curtain on the time of dragons and giants on the material plane, clearing the way for the rise of humans, orcs, dwarves, elves, and other folk. If Tiamat were to return to the material world, it could trigger, or be a signal of, the resumption of the war between giants and dragons. And this war would be the undoubtable end for the majority of the world. As one would expect, the Queen of Evil Dragon's mechanical statistics are nothing short of magnificent. She is one of the only 2 challenge rating 30 creatures given a stat block. Tiamat may very well be the strongest monster in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. The scales of this draconic goddess bestow her with an armor class of 25. No monster has a higher AC. She has an absolutely massive amount of hit points with 615. Only the Tarask, the other challenge rating 30 monster, has more. 60 feet of walking speed and 120 feet of flying speed make escaping the Dragonqueen's grasp outside of magical means nearly impossible. And speaking of magical means, the Dark Lady is completely immune to all spells of 6th level or lower, has 5 times legendary resistance, regeneration, innate spellcasting with access to spell Divine Word, a word imbued with power that shaped the world at the dawn of creation. Her 5 heads have their own consciousness and thus their own reactions and legendary actions, each with breath weapon capability of an ancient dragon. Her very presence is magically imbued to strike fear into all who witness her and paralyze them with terror. So that's it, everything you need to know about Tiamat. Now you can have fun sending your characters deep into an ancient temple of her draconic cult to pilfer her greatest treasure hoards, only to be captured and taken to her fortress in hell as sacrifices forced to fight their way out in order to survive. Or, something along those lines. However, if you do end up using this lore, make sure to let us know in the comments below. We want to know how it went.